Hello, everybody. Some real strong skip on Super Bowl Channel 6. And some FT8 on 5313. So we have 6 meters, 11 meters open tonight here in Montreal. So 627,555 calling frequency. So lots of stuff, lots of skip. Reminds me, it's a hot summer day here. It's right now it's 28 Celsius. We had like almost 90 Fahrenheit today, around 31. And you know what? I hear the skip and the hot weather we're having, and it brings me back to when I was a teenager and I was DXing FM, a TV, doing some TVDX and getting some stations from far away. Man, feels like it right now. So welcome aboard. This is the Shortwave radio show. We are twice a week live Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. 0 UTC, which means a big chunk of the world is actually in Thursday while watching this. And we also are live on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. That's 20 UTC. 2 different times for different types of people that are different places around the world. And I think that's really cool. We have a beautiful chat room. And this is a great place for questions and to have people ask questions and answer questions and just have fun with actually amazing people that are just here to have an amazing time, and that we all share one major goal and one major thing, and it's to just have fun with radio. And when all of this is over, what happens is that you might feel alone. You might feel that you're left out. Well, you don't have to. We have a Facebook group that now has 1,034 members. So why not join that? And it continues. The fun continues there. We have people that are just joining and sharing what they're listening to, and having fun with radio. And it's really cool, because I think it's the best, and that's what I want here: the best quality friends and radio geeks that are just here to share their passion and help each other, because we've all been there. Some of you have more experience than me, but we all been at one specific point, turning that radio on for the first time and having no idea what we're doing. And I think what I want is to make sure that the people that are at that situation now feel welcome and feel that we're here to help, and that we're not going to ever make them feel like any question they ask is stupid. Because you know what? When we don't know about a hobby, we don't know about something, we just don't know. It's not a question of being stupid. It's a question of, I don't know about you, but I wasn't born and the first word that I said to my mom was shortwave. If I did, I'd be curious to see that. We were all beginners at one point, and we've got to remember, something like this did not exist in my time. I started in 1982. I had no knowledge. What the hell was SW? What did it even mean? And thanks to a little booklet that came with a DX100, and it wasn't a lot of pages. It was like, I don't know, that instruction manual was like 12 pages or something, and it just had a minimum of what you can listen to with this radio. That started my own experience as shortwave listener. It told me what I could listen to. It gave the frequency ranges of the international broadcast bands and maritime bands and amateur bands and aeronautical. It was very helpful because it kind of gave me a basic understanding and a basic knowledge of where to listen for what, basically. And it was really, really cool to have at least that minimum knowledge. And I tuned in, and I'm still, summer is special for me. So today I had some videos and I did some things, but I took a walk outside. It was really hot, but it's summer, and with all the confinement, things and being home all the time, and working from home also, because I got to tell you, working from home is kind of cool, and it is, and I will not say it's not, but it also kind of feels lonely sometimes, And so I went out, and I went out to the park. So this afternoon, well, late afternoon, because I had a lot of stuff to do and a lot of videos to do on the tech channels. There's a lot of stuff happening on Windows and with Microsoft. So I went out around 4 p.m. Eastern, which is 20 UTC, and I took about an hour, a 90-minute walk. From 4 p.m. to 5:30, and I went through. I wanted to feel a little bit of nostalgia. I went to the park with the high school I went to as a teenager. I went around. There's a lot of people outside in the park because enjoying just the beautiful weather, and listening to some 80s music on my phone, and just kind of, I don't know, a little bit of nostalgia of the times, but it was cool. And with probably why the skip happening right now, the warm weather brings me back to TVDXing. And you know what? I should put an antenna on this TV here, and basically it's I was thinking, well, maybe try some when there's some skip like this, try some digital TVDXing, could be cool. So it's kind of interesting, and it felt also even though it was kind of hot, it was kind of cool to have a little bit of outdoor time and take it easy. And actually, tomorrow I have a pretty, technically should be an easy day. So I thought that I probably will take, tomorrow's going to be, so for the rest of the week here, it's going to be 90 Fahrenheit and sunshine. So it's really summer weather. So tomorrow I thought that I'm going to take my fold-up chair. And I didn't have time to go to Perry Island for a very simple reason. I got up on Monday morning with a huge backache. It doesn't happen very often, but I look like an old man needing a cane just to walk. And it kind of fixed itself throughout the day, and I still had a little bit of pain yesterday. So I thought, okay, let's take it easy, anyways. But tomorrow I think I'm going to bring some radios to the park and fold up chair, put myself under a tree, put a little piece of wire or something, and I don't know, just have fun doing some radio listening and taking it really, really cool. Maybe bringing along a book or something to read a little bit. So I think that's going to be my afternoon tomorrow, to chill out and do something else, than the regular routine every day of videos and being home and all of that. So anyways, I I think it's going to be fun. And of course, if I hear anything, if it's something interesting, I'll be posting videos. We have a beautiful chat room, like I said, and so if you want to join in, you just need a Gmail account. Or else, Facebook is official SWL channel on Facebook. If you want to write to say hello, because you're not in the chat or anything, and my phone is nowhere to be seen, so I think it's charging. Official Shortwave Radio, so not SWL radio. Official, all the words are all there. Official Shortwave Radio at gmail.com. A lot of people do official SWL radio at gmail.com, and it doesn't work. It's really all the words are there. Official Shortwave Radio at gmail.com. You can say hi. And I know Elizabeth said hi before the show started because I saw the email coming in. So Elizabeth from Regina is here tonight. Mark Cope, WA5153 SWL, Dallas, Texas. Nice to have you here. Bobby Burgess, WA5107 SWL, Morgan City, Louisiana. Dr. Sisop, nice to have you here from Florida. Pamela, nice to have you here, my friend. Joe Samran US from Brazil, nice to have you here. Trond, nice to have you on board from Norway. LA1008 SWL. Kevin Wood from Nova Scotia, Canada, VE1 TV, nice to have you here. Rob in Phoenix, Arizona, 104 Fahrenheit. That is hot. Papa Krampus, nice to have you here. WA9253 SWL from Southeast Wisconsin. Dr. Sisop, James Johnson. Nice to have you on board from Romeoville, Illinois. Marvin Motz, nice to have you on board from the Japan Islands. Nice to have you on board. What else we have? So even there, Dr. Sisop says 11 meters booming, 27,555. I heard a station calling on 27,555, so pretty cool. Carrie Ono Wasman, nice to have you on board. Artist Other Crafters Kitchen from Massachusetts. He's very excited, and I can imagine the Panasonic RF2200 nearest completion. These are so amazing vintage receivers. All the Panasonic shortwave, honestly, all the Panasonic shortwave radios I find attractive and sexy and really cool. And the old desktops from Panasonic are amazing devices. William Helms, nice to have you here from Florida. Hi, Brawler from Michigan. Hey, enjoy your vacation. Hope that even though things are a little complicated, that you're still having fun. And by the way, I've got my vodka and juice drink. Cheers, everybody. What else do we have? Tom DXer, nice to have you on board from the lower Hudson Valley, New York. Shirt Pocket Vids, nice to have you here. Shirt Pocket Vids from North Florida. Karen Owasman is in Indonesia. Nice to have you on board. Frank Ireland from Tampa, Florida. Nice to have you here. Bill, nice to have you on board from Seattle in the state of Washington. Simon Templar, nice to have you on board, my friend. Nicodarius, nice to have you on board. Let's rock Gilles World tonight with Wonders of Shortwave. Oh, man. What else do we have? So, hey there, Pamela. Nice to have you here. James Johnson says a lot of skip this morning on the CB band. And Dan V, nice to have you on board, or Dan 5. I don't know what you want to be called. Want to call Dan 5 or Dan V? Is it a 5 in Roman numerals, or? Nice to have you here from Ohio, N8WJZ. William Moser, nice to have you on board. Zoidberg, is this the real Zoidberg from Futurama? Nice to have you on board. And where is Zoidberg for 2 a.m.? I guess somewhere in Europe. Marc Jutra, bonsoir et bienvenue. Nice to have you here. Rufus Newt from the Laurentian Valley, Ontario, Canada. Glenn Zegman from Tennessee. William Helm says VHF UHF antenna made with 44-inch loop with a 18-inch coax Bullen. I can't wait to copy it for shortwave by multiplying the specs by 20 times over. You should make a channel on all of your experiments, William. It'd be interesting to see. PageMaster, nice to have you here. KC5VOY, WA5136SWL in Moore, Oklahoma. Jerry DX, nice to have you on board. Ian, nice to have you here. Graham Taplin, nice to have you on board. Mr. Paul is, it's funny. A cat is a cat, and you're like, sometimes you're like, what? So inside, the air conditioning is working, so we are comfortable. Outside is 30 degrees, so he's outside on the balcony, like sprayed out like this because he's too hot. And I look at him and said, like, why don't you come inside? It's cool and you can, sleep on a chair. I think he just doesn't understand that. So anyways, it's a cat, funny moments with cats sometimes. Rob says, yes, 1982 was a good year. It was, I guess. It was, if you like this show, because, that's what all started this show in 1982. So what did I do in 1982? What did I do in 1982? So in 1982, I was in high school. I did shortwave radio. I know sometimes I rambled all too much, but I'll tell this story because I'm going to tell it. So, of course, everybody knows the story of when I got the DX100, but there's something peculiar also that I remember of that. So back in 1982, we would go to Quebec City. So on weekends, we would go to Quebec City at my uncle's place, and my parents would spend the weekend there. And I would, I could have stayed home at that time if I wanted, but most of the time I went there because I would bring my shortwave radio, and it was a different thing. It was Quebec City. It was different from Montreal. So I was like, I'm seeing something else. So I would most of the time I would go. Maybe one weekend out of 4 I would stay in Montreal just to be alone in the apartment. But I don't know about you guys, but when your parents go away and you're alone a weekend in your apartment, you think it's likely going to be really cool. But when you're like 13 years old, you end up thinking, well, you know what? This is boring. I don't know what to do. I thought it would be exciting not to have the parents around, but you're like, no, this is actually boring. So most of the time I would go to Quebec City because of that. And I would bring my DX100 to Quebec City. I remember that. And listening to shortwave there. I probably looked like a really weird teenager, bringing my big DX100 to Quebec City. And I'm pretty sure when I would come back to Montreal, I'm pretty sure my uncle would like tell everybody, well, that's one weird kid with a radio that you're bringing everywhere. And so we would go to Quebec City. And so when I got my DX100, they were on vacation. And they spent so my uncle spent a whole week with his girlfriend in Montreal, and they stayed at my parents' house. And I had to actually give my bed because there was no place to sleep. So I would sleep on the floor in a inflatable bed because they would be in my bed. And I remember what's interesting is I remember when I got the DX100, it was the week they were actually at home. And, most of the time, I didn't really mind giving my bed and sleeping on, you're 13 years old. At 13 years old, you sleep on a brick floor and it doesn't matter, and I'm the kind of guy that just sleeps. So it's like, when I fall asleep, I fall asleep. But I remember my uncle being, because I just had the radio, and my uncle always looking and saying, oh, what are you hearing here and hearing there? And And my uncle, like a lot of my family, doesn't understand or speak English. They only speak French, and most only understand French. So I would actually make an effort to try to find French language stations, which I didn't always know what they were because I just had the radio. So I would go through and say, "Oh, something in French," and we would listen in. And I remember my uncle being like, "Did he just say that was Radio Berlin in French from Germany?" And I said, "Yeah, that's what he just said." And I remember he was like super surprised. I was like, "Oh, wow, okay." But it was kind of cool. And I would, it was August. So August, what does August mean? August means you start seeing the ads of back to school, which are, I mean, for a teenager, the back to school ads were so annoying. I was like, yeah, I know it's back to school. Just shut up and go on with it. And not that I hated school, but I did like my summer vacation, just relaxing. And especially with the shortwave radio now, I didn't need nothing else. Hey, I don't need friends. I got a shortwave radio. Although I did go and play with friends, but we it was an interesting time and special feel. You guys probably understand that moments in our lives have a feel that you just can't explain. It's your feel of that moment. And sometimes you get into you go somewhere and you hear a song or you see something and that feel comes back and suddenly it's as if your brain brings you back into that specific time in the past. And for a brief moment, you are there. You feel it, you smell it, you have the total experience, and that's how powerful the brain is. The total experience of like going back in time and being there for a moment. And so it's that's where it's all started, and that's all because of Rob from 1982. Was a good year. That's all of my talk and talk and talk and just going on and talking. Cariano says, "Are you sure MLA30 can reduce or can eliminate all electric noise from in and around the house?" Actually, that's not exactly what happens. So the MLA30 is what we call a magnetic loop antenna, and its design. There are some types of noise that it can be immune to. And what happens is that in general, if it's very noisy, the MLA30 might actually be the last. Honestly, if we put it very simple, if it's very noisy and you put a wire outside and you still hear nothing, the MLA30 is the only thing that you can still try to see if it can hear something. If that MLA30 doesn't receive anything, forget it. You'll have to go where there's no houses. Like I always say, it's not a miracle antenna, but it's very surprising. And it is only, and that I want to state because people have this impression. Maybe I was so enthusiastic that people thought it was a miracle antenna or something. It's not. And remember one thing: if you have a wire outside and you get tons of shortwave stations, don't get an MLE30. You're not gonna have better reception. Doesn't work like that. Actually, 50 feet of wire outdoor beats the MLE30 and the amount of reception of stations if it's not noisy around you. That, no questions asked. A wire is the simplest and the best antenna you can have in a quiet environment. Don't buy these wire antennas. Honestly, I always found that it was a scam. When we had these kits of 100 feet of wire with, all the isolations and stuff at the end and everything, and they would sell you that for like $79. What a ripoff! You got $5 of wire and $2 of other whatever, and it's a complete ripoff. I always thought Buying wire antennas or an antenna that says that this is a long wire with the no, that's a ripoff. Don't pay $80 for a wire. It's a ripoff. That's always been a ripoff. You can just take speaker wire, any electrical wire around. It doesn't matter how thick it is. It doesn't matter, if it's insulated or not. It doesn't matter if it's copper or aluminum or whatever. As long as it's metal, it's better insulated, because if you put it outside and it's raining and all the weather, it's gonna, if it's not insulated, it's actually gonna corrode, and it's actually gonna, be a little. It's not the same. But you know what? A piece of wire is the simplest and most effective antenna you can ever buy, and not even buy. Most of us have some wire somewhere, and you look in a box somewhere, and you got, oh, look at that, I got 50 feet of copper wire here, or I've got 30 feet of copper or of speaker wire here. Perfect. Just take it and make an antenna out of it. It doesn't matter for reception. Honestly, for shortwave radio reception on most of our radios, there's no magical solution. And you just put it outside, hang it in a tree, whatever, and look at what it actually brings in. For a lot of people, it costs zero or very little, and you've got an antenna, and it doesn't matter. You don't have to spend money for an antenna. But after that, and because of the environments we have today, and by the way, I'm 20 minutes behind, guys, so hang in there. The noisy environments today, what's going to happen is that in some places a wire will not work. So here I've got a 75 feet wire in my backyard, and it doesn't work very well. It does improve somewhat, but it doesn't work very well. It's too noisy around here. That's where I resort to the loop, the MLA30. This is what it's driving right now. The MLA30 is plugged in. So it doesn't eliminate noise. It reduces some types of noise and changes the signal to noise ratio. So we'll bring out of the noise sometimes signals that you couldn't listen to before. This is my experience here. And this is the experience for a lot of you that live in noisy environments. But it doesn't eliminate the noise, and it doesn't eliminate all electric noises. It just can reduce some, especially if your noise comes from a specific direction. You can kind of null it out by rotating and positioning the loop in the lowest noise possible. And every environment is different, and every environment, is peculiar on this. Most people with high noise level that have a loop, an MLA30, a Walbrook, a W6 LVP, will tell you one thing. Yeah, it did improve my reception. But it's not everybody. And not everybody's going to be happy with an MLA30 or whatever loop you're going to purchase. It depends on the environment you are in, somewhat. So like I said, if you put a wire outside and then you can't receive anything because it's too noisy, the only last resort is a loop like the MLA30. And if the MLA30 doesn't work, you're doomed. You gotta have to go and listen to shortwave somewhere else than your home. There's too much noise there. But the majority of people that purchased it are very happy with it. And remember, the loop needs to be at least a certain distance from. There's somebody that sent me an email a couple of days ago, and he installed an MLA30 and said he didn't have good reception. And we started talking, and he was talking that he put it on his balcony, and his balcony has a metal rail. and the loop was about 2 inches above the metal rail. And I said, no, you got to put it higher than that, because that metal rail and that loop, because it's just 2 inches, are probably interacting with each other. You're not getting good reception. And he finally did what I did actually in my video. He got a broomstick and he put it on a wooden broomstick. And now it was about 4 feet from the rail of the balcony. And he said, wow, there were huge difference. Yeah, because the metal of the rail was changing all the property of the loop. It has to be very, very isolated from anything metal within at least a foot or two to make sure that it actually works the best. Okay. What else do we have? Let's go down as fast as possible. As fast as possible. Tron, 30 Celsius south of Norway today. Wow. Like here. Dr. Sisop, yes, the new Edge does come with Windows Update for some people. Absolutely. But not everybody. But there are some people that are getting it with Windows Update. I actually got a couple of rants of people saying, hey, I didn't ask for it and it replaced my old Edge. But not everybody's getting it. They're sending it slowly. But it will be with the next version of Windows 10 this fall. 20H2 is going to have Edge, the new Edge. Joseph Ickenbaum, nice to have you here from California. James Johnson. James Johnson says, my first shortwave radio was also a DX100. You know, today I can see that it's a crappy radio. But, I mean, it was a radio, and I didn't know anything, so it was the cool radio I had, you know. Max Headstrong, nice to have you here. John McClure, nice to have you on board. Frank Ireland says, hard to TVDX now with the need to keep rescanning. In 73 or 74, I received KRTV in Great Falls, Montana from Kansas using a portable GE color TV indoors with rabbit ears. Yep. Pretty cool. What else do we have? Rex Satter from Milwaukee. Pamela, what's CW mean? It's simply continuous wave, or AKA Morse code. Brian Penny from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Nice to have you here. What else do we have? Max S. says, so nice to break from the world's insanity and bask in the magic of radio. Yeah, pretty much. Shirt Pocket Davis is having a pint. Cool. Bradley Breon, nice to have you here from Colorado. Pam. We're going to call her Pam now. Okay, Pam. Maria 330, nice to have you here. Jim and Robert Milligan, wonders of shortwave with Jill would make a great radio show. Marcos Polizzelli, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Rodney Crowley, nice to have you here, Rodney, from Missouri. Nice to have you on board. He's got our Ethon Elite Executive. Cool. Hey, G. Britton, nice to have you here, Glenn, from Toronto, VE 3051SWL. Kimberly, K6YYL from California. 76 Fahrenheit over there. That's cooler in here. We're almost at 90 today here. Page Master, with Mr. Paul being a ginger cat, Jill reminds me of the TV character Gary Hobson from the CBS TV series called Early Edition. Okay, I'm missing out on some stuff here. Bradley says, we were weird kids, now we're weird adults. I guess so. Got new neighbors downstairs on the bottom floor. It's a young couple. And I stumbled because we had a discussion of Paul the cat. Because, of course, Paul the cat is like the friendly cat. So they, of course, have all the doors open because they're bringing in stuff. And they're moving in, And I say, well, and she says, she said, we have this this ginger cat that comes in. I said, "Oh, it's Paul. He's called Paul, and it's my cat. He's like too friendly." She said, "Yeah, he's kind of very friendly." It's like, yeah. So he wanted to say hi, and so it's just so funny. And this afternoon, she came out. She arrived in the car with all sorts of stuff as she's moving, and Paul was outside, and she says, "Oh, hello, Paul." It's just funny. So Paul is, the cat that everybody loves. So, anyways, and it was a fun way to kind of introduce each other. Like, hi, I'm Joel, and she's called Gabriella, and her boyfriend's called Nicola, and it was kind of cool. So a little cool moment. Thanks to Paul the cat that made the the friendly thing going on. Rufus Newt says, my parents heard about me from the neighbors when I stayed home in my teens. The only thing I would do, okay, my neighbors were really cool because they never said anything. But I would ramp up the stereo to max volume with the music I liked. And I would pretend that I was I was that artist and I was on stage doing a show in my living room, which I'm sure if people would have taken some videos back then must have been absolutely superb. But the funniest part is when I got my first real stereo for me, because today, it's we don't call that a stereo anymore. Back then we called it a stereo because it had two speakers. And when I got my first job and I got my first sound system, which I still have here, and it's right there in front of me. When my parents would go away, I was always, calling up friends and saying, hey, come over. We're going to listen to some Guns N' Roses and stuff, And we would put the volume real high. And I still remember I was listening to Nazareth. And they were playing, it was the song Love Hurts. And it knocks on the door, and the volume is very high. So I'm sure it's a neighbor complaining about the volume. It's my downstairs neighbor at the door with a cassette tape. And she says, can you record this for me? I'm like, okay. Okay. So I recorded the song, and I said, well, you're in. You you want to look at my record collection, and let's do a tape. And she was like, she spent the whole evening at my place, and she was like, my parents were gone, and she said, oh yeah. And she was looking at my LPs and my albums, and was like, okay, oh, can you record this song and that song and that song? And I made her a tape in the evening. She was super happy and was like, okay, that's kind of cool. But I got to say, I put the volume very high. It was way too high. James Johnson, DX100, also on mobile radio. Yeah, I can run on 12 volts. Absolutely. Absolutely. Others Other Crafters says, summer 82, I was glued in front of Panasonic RF2200 in the Alley Crafters SX42. And it was off to college in the fall. Wow. Frank Ireland, no external antenna connections on my radio for medium wave. Has anyone tried connecting an MLA30 to an AM passive loop with an AM 100 when then connecting passive loop to radio too? I've tried it with my AM 200. Kind of works, but I can't say that it's necessarily much better than like an AM 100 or AM 200 loop, passive loop, honestly. But most portable radios, medium wave, aren't. There's no external connections for the medium wave. Charles Ayton, nice to have you here from Louisville, Kentucky. Nice to have you here, Chuck. KD9CAS. Fast Load from Montreal, nice to have you here. Jeff Barry, nice to have you on board. Happy Wednesday. Mongoose, nice to have you on board from Mississippi Gulf Coast. Jason Francis, nice to have you on board. I got your email. I'm going to answer it later tonight or tomorrow at the latest. No problem there. Moria 330 says, I've been enjoying the Skywave SSB with the wire reel recently. Cool. That's perfect. Arjus Crafter says, I've been reading people as of late saying that the MLA30 was introducing noise. I cannot imagine that being the case. No, it's not. It's really not. You know where maybe there could be noise on the MLA30? If you power it from a some kind of power brick that is very noisy, it could maybe bring noise to the antenna. Maybe the type of power supply that you use to power it is important for lowering the noise. That's for sure. I know some of you are powering it like with 12 volts, because what happens is the bias T is giving like 5 volts when you power it with a USB cable. But the antenna requires 12 to work. So it upscales the voltage. That upscaling of voltage could technically induce noise in the antenna. But apart from that, I could see maybe if you have a bad power supply that you use with it. What else do we have? What else do we have? Rufus Dune says uses his MLA30 and Longwire together to complement each other. I've seen many cases where in certain circumstances and certain frequencies, the wire is better. In certain frequencies, the MLA30 is better. So you switch between one. So depending on the frequency. So that I've seen quite a lot also. PageMaster says, small loop antenna is known as a magnetic loop since it behaves electrically as a coil. And it says it couples to the magnetic field of the radio wave in the region near the antenna, in contrast to monopole and dipole antennas, which couple to the electric field of the wave. Says in receiving antenna, the main application of small loops, the oscillating magnetic field of the incoming radio wave induces a current in the wire winding by Faraday's law of induction. Short pocket vids. How would I set up my Kato T1 real antenna in my house? Around a window? I'm total noob. So a real antenna being a portable wire antenna, if you want, is meant to be used in different environments. So first of all, you're not going to set it permanently wherever you set it, because you might want to take that radio and listen to the radio somewhere else. But if you have to put it in your house somewhere to try to get the best, yes, near a window is a good idea, but experiment, and that's the key of shortwave success. I live here in an apartment that has 2 bedrooms. Well, one is an office, which is my office now. I got my living room. I got a kitchen. It's very noisy because I am in there's 5 other people in this building, and some of them might induce noise to me. A lot of the noise I have actually comes from somewhere else, but what happens is one of the first things you need to do is find yourself a signal that you listen to, that you hear. And I think that would be, if I had a trick to give anybody that's wondering where should I hang my antenna, tune a signal. Even if it's very noisy, you're hearing something in the noise, perfect. But you know there's a signal there. Take that real antenna, take that radio around if you're just on telescopic. Go around your home and see where you hear more of that signal and less noise. Or maybe, you'll find a place within that home, that apartment, where it's much better. That's where you should put that wire, that reel, that whatever. In my case, it's very simple. The kitchen is the best place for me. That's why my first videos, for those that go way back to the first videos on my channel, you'll see that my ICOM ICR 8500 is in the kitchen for a very simple reason. Kitchen was my main lowest noise environment place in my home. So you'll find that there's some spots in your home that are less noisy, and that will bring in more signals. So definitely go around and check it out, because it's the best way to do it. We always say, well, near a window is a good idea, and it is often, but it is not necessarily where it's going to be the most successful. It might be somewhere else in your room, basically. And remember that all electronics are enemies to shortwave radio, because a lot of them induce a lot of noise. James Johnson has 25 feet of wire from my room to the tree in the middle of the yard. Works great. Perfect. Don't need anything else when it works great. Jim F. Nice to have you here. Jim from Rhode Island. WA1097SWL is in the house. Northern Dawn, nice to have you on board. How good do you think the wire antenna that comes with the radio are? Well, it's okay. Honestly, you know what? I should bring the default wire that comes with these radios tomorrow if I go to the park and show the performance. It's perfect. Portable radio is already extremely. It's like, think of a portable radio as a radio that they've pushed the gain real high in it. So that means if you put too long of an antenna and there's a lot of very strong signals, it's going to start overloading. And most portables are going to be like that. So honestly, the wire that comes with the RadioWow or the XH data, which plugs in on the side, is just perfect. It's longer than the telescopic, so it will rack in more signal, that's for sure. And it's a great quick makeshift antenna that you can use anywhere. Jim and Robert Milligan, how big is the MLA30 loop? Pretty much like a hula hoop, maybe even a little smaller than a hula hoop, but it's not much bigger than that. But it's a thin wire, so it's not easy to see, actually. John Edwin Snyder, nice to have you here from Denton, Texas. Randall Klons from Northeast Illinois. There's a guy from Montreal, Canada, calling CQ on 27555. Anybody in 11 meters? Go and check that guy out. He just called CQ on 27555, 11 meters. I hear him very often. He's very active. That guy is super active. I'd like to tell him that there's a show here where we can hear him. Bobby Burgess, please keep the show to shortwave. No computer stuff, please. This is not a place to promote any Microsoft products. This is a shortwave radio group, okay? Frank Ireland, as we were listening to Medium Wave, heard whistling on several different frequencies, not random, and actually tuned like a song. Sounded like someone messing with a microphone or something. That's interesting. Maybe, have you tuned around just to check out what's around the range? Maybe one of the medium wave stations had some kind of whistling whatever show, and it was overloading, and so you had it like everywhere. That could be the case. Christian Ferland, salut, comment vas-tu, mon ami? J'espère que ça va bien. Gaétan Bellil, bonsoir, et j'espère que ça va bien toi aussi, Gaétan. Dr. Sisop, does the Elite Executive? There's one that has SSB. Yeah, it has SSB, right? So the Elite Executive has single sideband, and people seem to really love it. By the way, guys, I got a funny story here. ChemXZ76, nice to have you here. Paul is a rock star. Oh, man. William Helms, Paul is the icebreaker. Yeah, pretty much. Cariono, no problem. Happy to explain. Amply to explain. For sure. Desmond Crean, nice to have you on board from Ireland. Why did you suspend Desmond, Bobby? He's a regular here. He's just saying he's from Ireland. Gilles the Blastmaster. Oh, man. What else do we have? Black Chow Chows. Nice to have you on board from North Wales in the UK. Mongoose. Have you used a balun on the long wire? Well, it's a sloper, so it's an angle, but it has a 9-to-1 balun. Yes, I've seen no difference with or without it. Jevin Robert Milligan says, "What's in my glass?" It's vodka and cranberry juice. Cheers. Anas Sharaf, nice to have you here. So, AirSpy or SPDX? And that's a good one because a lot of people that have the AirSpy HF Plus Discovery seem to say that it has a little something over the SDR Play or SPDX. But so it's up to you. It depends. It's they're in the same price range roughly. So I don't know. Anybody want to say it? What would you choose? I've seen some videos. I would say they're very close in performance, but one of the things about the AirSpy HF Discovery, upgradable firmware, that is a major plus because it can add features, it can add things which the RSPDX doesn't do. But whatever you would choose, both are amazing devices. Miki Dalmage, nice to have you on board. Miki Dalmage, I'm not going to send you some more heat. If it's 133 Celsius where you are, you're probably burning. So probably you mean 13 Celsius. Yeah, I would gladly send some heat. We're going to have 30. Tomorrow's 32. And for the rest of the week until Monday is like 33, 34, 33, 34 with sunshine. Caesar, RSPDX does not have DRM capability by default. You have to use like Dream software if you want to try it. Rifleman 336. Nice to have you here. And 8UCN in Southwest Ohio. Jason Francis, ignore my email. I decided that I need one portable to keep for years, so I have to look at some of the higher end models, maybe the PL880, Sanjin 909s. You know, XH Data D808 you'll have for years. The PL660 you'll have for years. They're not necessarily, you know, a PL880 or Sanjin 909 are not necessarily higher end. They're all pretty much in my opinion, pretty much the same. You know, I'm looking at some of the comments of stuff, and I've had very few problems over the years with radios, and the only one that really had a problem for me was the PL680, where the encoder kind of jammed. But in general, almost everything that I have purchased have has hold on and held on for years, and a lot of the portables I use, I've been using for years. And so, it depends on how much money you want to spend, Jason, honestly. And for me, a PL 80, even though it's a nice, bigger radio and it's very beautiful, and if you want that, go for it. I'm not saying not to go for it. If you want a Sanji 909X, go for it. No problem. But what I'm saying mostly is an XH Data D808 or a Texan PL660, you will have for years and will work very well too. But that said, if you want one of those, go for it. I'm not telling you not to buy it. It all depends on how much money you got to spend. You can look at the depending on the money you want to spend. You can look at the C-Crane. I'm still playing around with this thing, the C-Crane Skywave SSB. It's small, but it's capable and it's very nice. It has the airband and everything. It's really cool. PageMaster is giving away his RTL SDR dongle with everything that comes with it. Who is the big winner tonight? Jasmine, nice to have you on board from Capitol Hill, Seattle. Northern Dawn, CB rigs seem to be selling out of here. Man was pretty busy earlier. Cariono, take care. Stay safe from Indonesia. What else do we have? Let me just go down. Try to not miss anything. If he does it 10 times, Bobby, it's okay, but twice is not crazy. Take a beer, Bobby. Relax a little bit. I have the impression Bobby is on the censor button. It's like cluck, 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 him, that, there. Take a deep breath. What else do we have? Broadcast Wanderer. I like that name. Broadcast Wanderer. I'm a broadcast wanderer. What do you do in life? Huh? I'm a broadcast wanderer. Can I use old TV antenna for shortwave radio antenna? They kind of mismatch, so it's not the best antenna. You're better with a piece of wire, that costs nothing than an old TV antenna. Honestly. Jasmine says, got an AirSpy HF Plus Discovery and SDR Players P1A. AirSpy HF Plus Discovery is much better on weak USB signals, which is good for him since he monitors utilities a lot. So, John Doe, which portable has the best display features? Okay. It depends what you mean by best display features. If I had to choose which display on a portable radio I find the most interesting, then I would probably tell you the Sanji and ATS 909X, because it's big, has a lot of details, a lot of information. You have RDS functionality for FM, so it's kind of cool. And you've got page system where you can name all the frequencies and give them tags. For that, it's really cool. That's pretty much a winner right there. Pretty much. I'm trying to think of another radio that has any really amazing features like that. And there are a few, like the SH data isn't bad. The display has information, temperature, signal to noise ratio, stuff like that. The Traveler 3 from Ethan, the Grundig Edition Traveler 3 that I've got, I find it nice. Their orange display is beautiful. Plus the RDS functionality also is cool. I just forgot a story I was about to talk about. I'm just gonna go down as fast as I can in the chat. I'm gonna tell my story because I purchased a new radio. So if I don't talk about it in the next 10 minutes, guys, just put in the chat room, what new radio did you buy? Okay, just saying. Mongoose, you can send monetary donations, and anybody that wants to, by the way. Okay, you guys notice I don't ask for donations because YouTube monetization has been generous. So I've been kind of backing off. I've always thought, so in 2017, when I asked for donations for the first time, I was in a dire situation. YouTube monetization was bad. And I was at a crossroad. What am I going to do exactly? Do I continue doing this? Or do I do something else in life? And I held on. And I'm happy to hold on. But it introduced something in 2017 that was, I need donations because without donations, I can't go through. And I got to say, your donations helped me a lot. And I will say this. I got other channels that are much, much more popular than this one. But this channel, and I want to thank everybody here, the only channel, the most generous channel of all in donations was here. You guys came through like no one else ever did. And I want to thank you because it helped me in 2017 keep my head above water, and it helped me still be here today and be happy of doing what I do. I took a big gamble, and I say it from time to time. When I changed from tech guy to this, I took a gamble, and we got to be fair here. I was tired of being a tech guy. Being a tech guy with everybody problems on computers it's not an easy task. It gives a lot of money, but you get tired of everybody's problems, and you get especially tired of everybody not really understanding exactly why something is like that, and you just gotta live with it. Sometimes you because on computers sometimes you gotta say that. It's like, yeah, it's like that. Live with it, but there are some people that can't, and there's the misunderstandings, and at some point you're like, you get tired of it. I did 15 years of it. I'm happy because it changed who I am also, because I met a million different people. I went across the city everywhere, places I didn't even know existed in my own town. So I know the city a lot more thanks to that. So there's a lot of positive stuff, and I met some of the most amazing people in the world. This week I had a message. There was one of my clients. So she, I know you guys like the tech story, so I think I told it before, but I'm gonna tell it. I'm gonna explain that story again. So she is it's like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. So 12 years ago, I'm about 38, 39 years old. And she's in her 50s. And she calls me up for fixing her computer. And I get there, and she's there, and she has her husband in the living room while I'm fixing. And I'm the kind of guy that has these little stupid jokes, that like try to relax the atmosphere. So I'm always the kind of guy that has these little stupid jokes that I will say. It's like, and she's laughing at every little stupid joke that I have. And all the while, her husband on the couch, I am fixing, but I kind of noticed that her husband looks more annoyed at the tech guy than anything else. So, you know, and then I fix the computer. Everything's all right. She's super happy. She gives me my money and everything, and I go. She calls me up 6 months later, and she tells me, well, can you come on a Friday evening? I was like, yeah, sure. Then she adds, so can you come like at 7 p.m. and not eat? Because we'll have food. And I'm like, okay. Okay. So I get there, and she's alone that time. And, I'm fixing the computer and everything, and I'm doing my stupid little jokes. And she brings a glass of wine. And every 2 sips of wine that I drink, she just like fills it up again. So it's like, okay. And she brings out sushis. And there's like, she's this big. She eats 3 sushis and she's got enough. There's about 100 sushis on the plate. I was like, okay, I like sushi, but I'm not going to eat 90 sushis. I'm going to eat like 10 or 12, and that's going to be pretty much it. And we start talking and stuff. Like, the fixing of the computer lasted 20 minutes. I spent 3 hours there talking on the couch with her. And we drank wine, and it's so funny because I came back home, and I remember waking up in the morning saying, man, I'm so hungover. I'm hungover of fixing a computer. But that night, I do notice that her husband isn't there, because he looked like he really didn't like me. She looks at me and she says, you noticed my husband isn't there? I said, yeah, I did notice. Well, he's in the Philippines having sex with little young ladies. So I thought that I would call my tech guy. Which is like, okay. Okay. That is an awkward moment. Anyways, she was a perfect gentleman. She never tried anything. And she never, that's not what she wanted. I learned after... every time after that she called me for a computer, it was always amazingly, professional, and she never tried anything. I was the guy that fixed the computer, but it was also a friend, which was kind of sad when you think about it, because she had to pay a tech guy to have an evening with somebody to talk, But I remember one night I was there, and it was summer, and they lived in a $2 or $3 million home near Montreal, and we could see the city from our terrace. So we're outside eating pizza, and of course there's like $150 of pizza because she doesn't know what I like, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm like, okay, well, I just arrived. There's a crescent moon. The sun is setting down. The beautiful city. And, wine, and it's almost romantic. And I do that as a joke because I told a friend I would do it. And some friend posts on the comments, just a gigolo? And I'm like, I look at the comment and I'm like, that does look like that, pretty much. That really does look like that. And anyways, this week, to continue the story later, she actually took the time to, it was last week actually, she took the time to send me a little email saying that she had only a few weeks to live. And, I haven't had any news from any client in years now, or pretty much. I have one client that is in my Facebook that follows me, but she sent me a little email. She says I got just a few weeks to live, and I want to tell you that every time you came to fix my computer, you were the sunshine of my life, and you made me smile. And I gotta say, I had a few tears last week when I read that. It was like midnight, and I saw the email, and I was like, oh crap, And anyways, now I'm gonna have a tear if I continue. So, anyways, PayPal donations are accepted after all of the big story, thanks to Mongoose. So, PayPal donations are accepted at this email if you want to do a little something. Patreon, I'm not using because I don't want to abuse. I thought that if I stop asking for donations, I would not take the donations from Patreon either. So I'm not taking the donations from Patreon, and I'm not asking any donations technically, but they are welcome if you guys want to donate. What I actually do with them is I keep them in the PayPal, and when I see something I want to buy, I buy it. I'm 15 minutes behind, guys. I know. I want to talk about a radio that I purchased, and I want to talk about a funny story with it. So look, sometimes you see a radio, you're sure that it's probably super crappy, but because the way it looks, you just look at it and it's like, I want it. I want that radio. It's a portable receiver. It's a bigger portable receiver with a handle and everything. And it's the Reticus TR618. So guys, check that out. Reticus, RETEKESS, something like that. TR618. Tango Radio 618. So I purchased it because I had about $100 in my PayPal from donations that accumulated over the last month and a half or something. I thought, well, I'll just take that money and pay for it. It came to about 60 Canadian dollars, shipping included, and actually it was shipped this morning. But the funniest thing is on the eBay page where I purchased it, it says, this is an AM, FM, shortwave, elderly radio. And I looked at elderly radio, and when you look at the picture of his eBay page, it's an old couple on the beach holding hands, and the guy has the Reticus on his other end because he can listen to music with his chick or whatever. And I'm like, it's the first time I see this. Somebody says this is a radio for the elderly. So anyways, it's an AM, FM radio with shortwave from 6 to 18 megahertz, has MP3 player, and they say everywhere that the sound quality is amazing. So you know what? I purchased it to review it, but at the same time I thought, well, if it's crappy, if the sound is decent, maybe I can play some, USB key with some MP3s on it. Elderly. I'm buying an elderly radio. I'm still laughing at like elderly. What? A radio for the old? What is that? Who tells you that a radio is for the elderly? Oh God. Okay. Jasmine got very good reception, MLA30 and Airspy HF Plus. Jasmine, check utilities. Whoops. I just I'm going to try to catch up here a little bit. So Jasmine says, check utilities forum on HF Underground for some of my loggings, and I am in the middle of the city. Cool. Kevin Wood, I have more problems with radio experts than I do with radios. I totally agree. There's too many radio experts out there. Caesar says, got good Android apps for RTL SDR dongle, RTL 2832U. Thank you. If you have an RTL SDR dongle, you must have the SDR Touch software to run on your Android device. Rifleman 336 went to look at used laptops to run RSP Duo. I'm looking at i5 processors. What generation should be the minimum? But the salesman wants to toss me a $1,200 laptop. No, you don't have to pay that high of an amount, Rifleman 336. Okay, the laptop running this is RSPDX SDR Uno. Look at the CPU usage on the left side of the screen, very low. This is a Core i5 processor that is from 2015. It's 5 years old. It's running this, and it can run it at the full 10 megahertz spec. So what I say here is that is a, oh man, the name of that one is a, what's the name of the, they have the, Intel has these names like Coffee Lick and stuff. Anyways, it's a fifth or sixth generation or something like that. i5, and it runs super well. You don't need a $1,200 laptop, Rifleman 336. Okay? But stay away from i3, Core i3. They are sluggish, and they always been sluggish. They are super sluggish laptops. Core i3 are the crap performance ones. Core i5 or better, and anything in the last 3 or 4 years is going to do the job so well with a Core i5 or i7, and you're going to spend not that much money, honestly. So, if you're going to buy a $1,200 laptop, at $1,200, you can buy a brand new laptop that performs super well rather than a used laptop. And with an i5 processor, it's going to work well. Bill, nope. PL660 is really, really good. He says poor cellular connections. Absolutely not. Most people that have it work well. I got text and receivers here from years, and they work well. You might have, your experience might be that one of your or somebody's PL660 had poor connections, because there's always, in every radio and in every model, even the best ones, there's always that Friday afternoon or Monday morning junk. But for the most part, the Texan PL660 is an amazing radio. What else do we have? Kevin Wood getting alerts on DX Maps every day for Tropo and eSkip. Gustavo Pinto, nice to have you here. Exhausted of playing SDR today, hours in a row, after a panic by using RTLV 3 months ago. Now I had the best experience after backing to radios again. Cool. What else do we have? Marcos Polizzelli, what's your opinion of the SDR, a hack RF kit sold on AliExpress? I've got no experience with that, so I can't really tell you honestly. Jason Francis, thanks for the advice. Airband is important because I live very close. So if you want airband, XH Data has airband. You can also look at the C-Crane Skywave SSB that has airband. Remember just one thing, Francis, okay? I will tell you one thing here, very important about that. If you really like to tune airband, nothing beats a scanner radio. Even the cheapest scanner radio beats any scanning of these portable shortwave radios with airband. The scanning speed on all of them is very slow. Honestly, if I was a fan of airband, I would not use any shortwave radio that has airband to do that. Okay? This is very important. If you want to have that, even buying a used scanner on eBay for $50 will beat any airband receiver of the shortwave radios. I can tell you that. So if airband's important, Get yourself a dedicated scanner. Buy the cheapest one. The cheapest one will do better than the airband of any shortwave radio. So you're better off maybe with 2 radios, honestly. If airband is something you tune all the time. I mean, it's fun to have airband on a shortwave radio like the Sea Crane. But man, the scanning speed is like turtle speed. Okay. I don't even understand why it's so slow, even on such a radio, because even the cheapest scanner radio scans 100 times faster than that and does a much better job at it. Okay. Jasmine, I thought QSLs were like 80s and 80s. No, QSLs are still a thing. Absolutely. Hey, Ryan Pinto, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Rufus Newt replaces Grundig G6 Buzz Edition with the XAJ D808 as a bedside radio. Take care, Kadarius. Jeff Barry's in Canada. What do we have? About Chickabow Bow. Jasmine says, for some it's the plumber, for others it's the tech guy. Don't get Kevin Wood vodka, say no more. No, I would never. As a tech guy, 3 times in 15 years, 3 times. I actually got a client said, you want to have sex? 3 times. Nope. Having sex with a client and she gives you the money equals you're a prostitute. It just looks like that. No, you don't do that. Professional. You gotta stay professional. But you know what? What I understood is I was her friend, which unfortunately she had to pay to have a nice evening and nothing more, which is sad, which is really sad. William Hill's cable guy. But Kevin Wood, hey, I am a Patreon. Yeah, I know, but I'm not asking the money on Patreon now. I'll do it if you guys want. I'll ask the money this month, but I don't do it. Man, Steve Miller, let's have you here. Ryan Pinton, Amazon Picture says TR618 FM AM 3-man radio for elders. I like that, elders. I'm gonna have an elder radio, so I'll be using it in my old guy moments. Oh God. William Moser, what is a RDF radio? What is an RDF radio? Skylake. Yeah, something like that. Mark Perry, nice to have you here. Danny, Shortwave Radio DX, nice to have you here from Yonkers, New York. Hey, Matt, MDK2, nice to have you on board doing weather spotting training. So it can be part of the show. So take care. Have fun. Yes, I am in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Danny Shortwave, I agree with you, Shell, on the airband listing. Uniden BC355N does a very good job on scanning airband. And you can buy one for around $70. Yep. Oh, radio direction finding. I didn't. Radio direction finding. So, in what part of the spectrum? I mean, there's different ways to do radio direction finding. For sure. So, Jason, yeah, you're better with a cheap scanner for airband and a general shortwave radio for the rest. That definitely is the case. I would not, if I would be a big airband listener, I'd not be happy with the. It's kind of cute. It's kind of cute to have it and be able to listen, like punch in your local airport frequency, because that's kind of cool. But if you are in the you're a big fan of listening and you want to scan the bands to the air band to find out all different frequencies and stuff and different air shows and stuff, you're really better off with a scanner radio. That definitely. I got a 30 channel unit in here that's like ages and does that 100 times better than my than the C Crane Skywave SSB, for example. So you're in your case, if you want to do shortwave and you want to do airband, you're better off choosing a good shortwave, a decent shortwave, and $100, even less than $100 scanner radio, which will be better on the airband, anyways. So you're listening to the whatever show. So, anyways, I got the elderly radio, so I feel like an old man when I get it, and we'll test it out. It has 6 megahertz to 18 megahertz on shortwave. I don't know what's the. I noticed that it moves. Look at that. The on the air band moves when I move my chair because of the wire. So, anyways, it is something that is going to be interesting to test. Ryan Payton. Wait, let's go back up. Steve Miller. Before LoRaWAN and GPS. Oh man, direction finding. Antennas. You can design antennas in different ways, but one of the things that you could do, for example, is triangulate a signal. So if you have a directional antenna that you can use, what often can be done is 3 stations far enough apart can also get the best signal, which tells them that their signal is in a general direction. And by doing a triangulation, so you cross the lines and on the map you have a little dot, you can have an average idea of where the location of the transmitters are. That happened a lot in the 80s, since the Second World War with radar and everything. A lot of that happened, and actually even today there's a lot of the shortwave transmitters that we know their locations because there were triangulation much more than anything else, because there were very little details of where they actually are for real. And for airplanes, there is non-directional beacons. They are part of a system of direction, helping airplanes get to the runway. The blind picker, and I say, have you on board, Rob? W0RAB in Connecticut. Yep, the beacons in the long wave, because they're not very low frequency. They're long. They're the CW beacons that are in the long wave bands from the non-directional beacons are actually there to They're there to actually help the airplane, because the airplanes today don't use that much but they are still there, and they existed for a purpose of helping the plane know where the runway is. Ryan Payton, what is the deal with tuning AM stations? I'm supposed to not use the extending antenna, and I should have the radio parallel to ground and turn it to improve reception. So Ryan, so every radios. So I'll take this as an example. This is one. Every radios are built pretty much in the same way. They have a telescopic, that is the antenna that you have on top here. That telescopic is meant for FM and for shortwave. Now, you might think, and that could be a good question actually for anybody that never did ask it, because I don't think I never had, because people wonder why the telescopic is not used. But why isn't the telescopic used for medium wave? So we all know that there's that thing called wavelength. So sometimes we talk about wavelength and we say that, well, you're listening to the 19-meter band, which is 15 megahertz, or you're listening to hams on the 40-meter band, which is 7 megahertz. That length, that wavelength, what does it mean? So there's a correlation between frequency used and a length. A wave of a signal has a certain length on a certain frequency. The lower in frequency you go, the bigger the length. What happens is this on FM works great because it is in the wavelength, like 100 megahertz, for example, which is in the FM broadcast band, is 3 meters. How do I know? Simple math. 300 divided by the frequency in megahertz gives you the meter band. So 300 divided by 100 megahertz, 3 meters. You don't have to understand this, but understanding it does help in understanding also some of the things that's happening. And sometimes if you're really advanced, understanding how to construct antennas. So, this thing will not be 3 meters long, but it's long enough to not be that far away from 3 meters. And as you go down and you go into shortwave, so 30 megahertz is the highest frequency of shortwave broadcasts. 30 megahertz, 300 divided by 30 is exactly 10 meters. It's the wavelength. If you had a 10-meter wire, it would resonate at 30 megahertz. It's the physics of radio waves. It just works like that. So once again, as we go down, the waves get longer and longer and longer. So, for example, if I tune 6,000 megahertz, which is Radio Havana, Cuba right now, we call that band 49 meters. It's an average of the meter band of the area. So it means to resonate perfectly, your antenna would need to be 49 meters in length to match the resonance of that wavelength. But as you go down, it really goes crazy. So if you go to the medium wave or the AM broadcast band, so 1,000 kilohertz, when you tune 1,000 kilohertz on the AM broadcast band, okay, we'll apply the same rule. So 1,000 kilohertz is 1 megahertz. 300 divided by 1 is 300. The wavelength is now 300 meters. That means to resonate, you'd have to have a 300-meter long wire to match the resonance, the resonant frequency. So that means to have the best effect of a signal at 1,000 kilohertz, you'd have to have 300 meter long of wire. So one of the ways that they, because I mean, this is far from being it's very far from being 300 meters long, which means that telescopic, as you go down in frequency, is less and less effective. It's less and less capable of actually receiving decently a signal that you're listening to. But now they decided to do something different. What about if you do a ferrite with hundreds or thousands of turns of little wire? What happens? Now you've got a 200, 300 feet long antenna. It's just that it's coiled around a ferrite to kind of do some induction in it. That's the simple way of explaining it. It's more complex than that. So what happens is that every design of radios today, they use that ferrite that is internal to the radio. So when you tune to medium wave and long wave on almost every radio, that is a portable radio, you now use that as an antenna. Why? Because that the hundreds of turns of wire resonate better than the telescopic would. But also, because it's a ferrite with a core, it becomes extremely directional. So the reason you got to turn the radio is because that ferrite is extremely directional to where the signal comes from. So you have to turn it to have the direction of the signal to improve that signal. So that was the lesson 101 of understanding why there's ferrites and loops and antennas and meter bands. William Moser, wait, marine beacons the same as airplane beacons or not? Nope. So in the maritime bands of shortwave, the beacons, or we call them channel markers, they have a different purpose. Channel markers are there to mark and make sure that everybody understands that this is the frequency of WLO, or this is the frequency of TAH in Turkey, or SVO in Greece. So the Morse code ID that's going on all the time is just to say that this is the frequency of this maritime station of this country. And if you have traffic, you can use this and have traffic there. It's really to keep the frequency and let everybody know. Danny Shortwave. Sorry to hear about the K180. I was thinking of buying one, but between paying over $70 total with taxes. I'm happy with the MLA 30 Plus for shortwave, medium wave, and long wave. Sorry. I'm still interested on VHF reception on a K180 WLA. I hope to see more videos on the VHF channel. Yeah, that's coming. I am playing around with it. It's hey guys, another funny story. So, I'll generalize as Chinese, but they're probably not Chinese. They're maybe Koreans or Asian people have purchased the house on the other side of the backyard. So I decided to do tests with the K180, and I'm holding the K180 in my hand, and the loop's there and everything, and I'm moving around like this, and I'm in the backyard. And after about 10 minutes, I look up, and there's like 8 Asian people on the balcony, all talking and looking at me, waving. And I was actually trying to get some VHF 2-meter satellites that were passing over. So I was looking up, and as I was holding the antenna and moving it, and hearing actually some ham stations calling on the ICOM SCR30. I was looking up, and it everybody on the balcony was like, and it was like, yeah, okay. Nobody ever asked me a question, but boy, they must have found, what is that guy doing in the backyard with that thing and that little other thing that looks like, I don't know what, a radio or something. So it was a funny and very awkward moment in my backyard earlier this week. So, but the tests made me realize a few things. I gotta say. First of all, I noted a sweet spot in my backyard where, when I position the loop there, the FM breakthrough goes almost all the way. It's like a null area. It's like an area where the FM stations are not going through for some reason. When I am there, I gotta say the K180 seems to be as sensitive as the MLA30. When I was there, I could hear almost anything I could hear on the MLA30. And of course, as soon as I move an inch left or an inch right, the FM breakthrough starts again. Which tells me that the K180 in a rural area or in the middle of nowhere probably works fine. But it's unfortunately overloaded with FM stations here. The other thing that's interesting is I started using it as so it's a loop. Of course, it's super directional. So I thought maybe it could be cool for satellite listening. And you know what? I listened to some of the 2-meter satellites that have these linear transponders that have USB hams on 2 meters. I gotta say, with some pretty interesting success, by moving around, I could get surprising results. Now, there's one thing I need to try better, because I did those tests with the ICOM SCR30 that unfortunately is a crappy radio because it's overloaded also. It's like, I don't know, the amplifier, the K180 is inside the ICOM SCR30. Oops, did I say that? But I'm sorry, ICOM. It's a crappy radio for the price. That said, what I would like what I want to do, and this is what I'm going to be in the videos are going to be with that, honestly, Danny Shortwave. I'm going one day in the next few days to take my ICOM ICR 8500. That is a top-notch radio that works amazingly well on VHF, UHF. I'll plug the K180 on that receiver and do some satellite tracking. That's where I want to see it. Because the ICOM SCR30 received the satellites, absolutely. But because I got to play with I was about to say the F word. Oops. Because I got to play with the F attenuator to lower its sensitivity because it always overloads. I can't really grasp how good what I was doing is working. But I know that with the ICOM ICR 8500, I'll have a perfect idea of how well it's going, because I'll be able to move it around, try to follow the satellites, and use it for other signals on VHF at the same time. So those are going to be on the VHF UHF channel, and they are coming up. Because I got a you know what? I got a VHF vertical in the back, which is a wideband. When I tune here the NOAA weather station from across the border in the US, it's about S7, S6, S7 on the S meter. when I tune it with the K180, I get an S9 plus 10 signal on the same signal. It is definitely stronger. And it tells me that it definitely is a better antenna on that frequency than my mobile vertical. So that's why I'm intrigued. And I thought, for a long time, I wanted to have some kind of directional antenna to tune the VHF satellites. Well, maybe that could be my directional VHF antenna. Radioactive, nice to have you on board from Oregon. Pretty cool. Hearing Trenton Military on 6754. 6950. Pirate Station. Anything here on 6950? Can't say I'm hearing anything right now. What else do we have? Hey, Gordon Lyle, nice to have you on board from Southern Illinois. William Helms, good mini lesson. Prasad, nice to have you here from India. Always nice to have you on board, and yes, better late than never. Shelley, what's an easy way to remember the formula? Megahertz divided by 300 equals wavelength. Yep. That's the simple. It's not exactly 300, so you're not exactly perfectly. It's like 299 dot something. It's actually the speed of light, the exact equation. But to make it simple, 300, just remember 300 divided by megahertz gives you the wavelength. And you're pretty close to it, the exact wavelength. So that's why a lot of textbooks will tell you 300 by megahertz divided by megahertz, and that's it. So 300. So if you listen to WWV 10 megahertz on shortwave, well, 300 divided by 10 is 30. WWV is smack on 30 meters wavelength. That's it. 3 megahertz. They're listening to something on 3 megahertz. 300 divided by 3 is 100 meters wavelength. Remember that is the wavelength in meters, because I know that a lot of you in the US want to have the wavelength in feet, but that 300 divided by megahertz it's a metric measure. It's in meters. So it's an easy way to remember. 300 divided by megahertz. Hey, Erica Trell, nice to have you on board. Says there are marine long-wave beacons like aircraft beacons. They tend to be along the coastal region and major waterways. Jasmine, if you were out here, you could have broke out one of your shortwave radios. We get Asian stations very strongly at different times of the day. Danny Shortwave, I was wondering the same thing about satellite listening with the K180 WLA. Can't wait to see that. So this at the latest is going to be in this weekend. I'm going to take my 8500. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to plug it with extension cord. The K180 going to be on the antenna input, and I am going to track satellites on the ICOM. All of that is going to be on video and posted on the VHF channel. Because, when I got a K180 and I started tuning around, and I saw all the spurious signal on shortwave, I was kind of bummed out. I was like, okay, Canadian, I spent $85 Canadian for it. I was like, yeah, okay, I just crapped $85 for nothing, And when I started to tune VHF, especially, when the last week there was that opening on 6 meters, 5313. all the signals were stronger on the K180 than on my vertical. I started thinking, you know what? Maybe you don't have that bad of an antenna. Maybe you have to just understand that you're going to use it in a different frequency range. So I'm not, that negative anymore about it. But if your main interest in listening to the radio is shortwave, get the MLA30 to be on the safe side. Because with the K180, if you have a strong FM broadcast station, it might not be good. Artists out crafters, several campers and outdoorsmen lost in the wilderness with a Panasonic RF28200 have gotten compass bearings with a built-in medium wave gyro antenna. Yeah, you can, because technically, if you're lost in the forest with a radio that gets AM, you can go in a general direction. Because you can just use the radio as a compass, basically. And you're going in the general same area. It's going to wobble a little because it's not perfect, but, I never thought about this. Maybe a radio is going to save my life someday. He got lost in the forest and found his way to the nearest highway thanks to listening to a local AM broadcast and pinning it down on the radio. That'd be interesting. William Helms, Chicago Boys karaoke across the street from me needs you to belt out a tune. I need to go there and have a song. Hey, I haven't sang karaoke since March. Everything's closed. Someday I'll return to my microphone and sing. Colonel Lyle, get about 200 feet of coax, hook your loop to a helium balloon, fly it like a kite, and that will be really entertaining the neighbors. Oh, man. But you should have, I was about to say something bad. It was tons of Chinese people looking at me. They're probably not Chinese. They're Asian. But it was, to see all of them look at me doing my little ballet dance with the antenna. And looking up, and they would all look up. What's so interesting up there? I like that. Yeah, I listened to the 65.4 feet band. What? Yeah, I was listening to the 65 feet band yesterday. I was on the 65-foot band. It's always the best propagation. Where the hell's the frequency for that? What's the name of my VHF channel? It's official VHF UHF channel. Just find that. And I started reposting a lot of videos now. VT Radio, nice to have you on board. Waiting for a video up to load to YouTube while listening to you. Don't do very often. Forget how long it takes. Yeah, it depends on how you do it and so how big the file is and how fast your internet upload. That's why my internet costs a fortune. Because I need fast upload speed. The internet is always, you got 200 megabits internet. Yeah, you got crappy 1 megabit upload. Because anybody that just surfs the web, it's okay. That's what you want. You want to have fast download. But I'm YouTube. I'm a YouTuber. I upload videos all the time. I do live shows. I want to have fast upload also because it makes it much faster. So that's why my internet costs a lot of money, because I have fast upload also. So Prasad learned something new today. 300 divided by megahertz equals wavelength. Absolutely. Robbie, EI2IP ever become the Russian radar signal on 14 megahertz AM band, very strong in Ireland and wipes out a lot of the band in Europe? Are you talking about that really big wideband kind of hash noise? There's so many of them, and there's so many. There's always complaints on the ham bands of stations that are, um, getting into the ham bands with radars and all sorts of things like that, and it's crazy. It's crazy. What else do we have? What else do we have? Gordon Lyle, live in the Montreal Theatre, Gilles and the Dance of the MLA 30. Tickets on sale. No, it's the K180. We'll call it the K180 dance. People are wondering what the hell are you doing? Yeah, that is something that a lot of people do on VT Radio. I have a friend of mine that called me up and said, you know what, I got no job now because of what's happening. What would be your options for somebody that doesn't want to spend too much money, and honestly, those companies are screwing us up with really expensive prices that shouldn't be. I mean, they're really, really going overboard. I had a rant with my cell phone company. I'm with Fido, which is technically Rogers in Canada. So I get this offer by text, by SMS, and it says, "Hey, we got a great offer for you. Get 100, so get 20 gigabytes of data per month for $100 a month." And so when I saw the message, I called him up and I said, "So do you often send these messages to try to tell me I'm stupid?" And the person says, "What are you talking about?" "Well, I got a text message that you want me to subscribe for 20 gigabytes a month for $100. This is actually something that is very offensive because you think I'm stupid that I'm going to pay $100 for 20 gigabytes." So the person says, "Well, it's a good deal." It's not a good deal. It costs you less than $1 per gigabyte to give it to me. And I started saying, you know what? If you send me an offer like that again, I'm canceling everything. I'm going somewhere else. Because, I mean, it's over the time when you try to lure people into some stupid things like that. Oh, man. It ended up that now I have $30 per month rebate on my account because I was so pissed off at the company. And I was like, look, you know what? And I told him, unless it's really an amazing deal, I don't want to have any SMS from any deals that you guys can actually give me, because that is super offensive. I mean, you think I'm stupid? So it's just funny moment. Okay. What else do we have? Frank Ireland just ordered an Ethon Elite Executive. We'll get it on Friday. I missed my Grundig G3 Globe Traveler, which I sold because the finish had defects after cleaning the sticky rubberized case. Oh, really? What do you clean it with? I use like 70% alcohol. Works good. Yep, Gustavo Pinto. Portables are meant to be portables, pretty much. Joseph Merol. I asked this question last week, but I will ask again a different way. If money is not an issue, which is the best portable desktop shortwave receiver? And I'll probably have a very similar answer. I don't like to peg a radio as being the best. because the best, first of all, the best means different things for you and for me. And each receiver has its drawbacks, each receiver has its negative side. And all it runs down to at some point is how what you like and what you don't like, and what exactly do you want in performance. I think the question needs to be more of if questions no, if money is no object, what would you buy as a radio, a desktop or a portable? So let's say I've got no radios today, and put myself in a position where I got money's no object. I would probably buy all the radios again. I'd buy 200 radios. No, well, I would probably, but if I had one, you tell me, okay, you got no radios, money is no object. What do you want to buy? I would buy a in the portable market, I would still buy an XH Data D808 because it does what it does so well. And I could buy a Seacrane Skywave SSB. It's more expensive, has a little more features, and of course comes with good earbuds and comes with a power supply. But I'd be into the XH Data on the portable. Sangean 909X would be a nice choice also. On a desktop, well, I'd get something I want to get, so I'll get something like the ICOM SCRD 600. And that's if I buy these types of radios, because honestly, if I have one radio, only one choice of a radio, I would buy something in SDR. So I would buy an SDR Play or SPDX again, something like that. It's a question that's tricky and very delicate, and the answer will be different depending on everybody that will answer it, honestly. Oh yeah, Ryan, that's the worst situation when you got only one ISP and have no choice. That's the worst situation. They charge whatever they want when that happens. Oh really, Frank Ireland? I removed the rubber finish with 70% alcohol, which is great, and it doesn't remove any of the lettering or anything on the radio. Mike WDX50, the best radio question is like the best computer question. It's different for everyone. Absolutely, it's very different. Danny Shortwave Radio DX, my satellite 800 is a portable, and it might as well be a desktop with a carry handle. It depends on your definition of portable. Yeah, William Moser, ICOM SCRD 600. Joe Tyson used Drake as Shortwave 8. There's a lot of stuff out there. I would be curious to see. I would be curious to see the performance, of a JRC NRD 525, for example, with today's ICOM IC80 600. What it would be if you compare both? Can you really see a difference? And I mean, we got to be careful, because one of the biggest problems with seeing a difference with radios today is also understanding that an ICOM IC8600 has new technologies. You can add stuff that didn't exist 20 or 30 years ago, but in the same circumstances with the same settings. How would an ICOM A8600, a SDR Play RSPDX, a whatever device compare with a Drake R8B or a JRC 525, NRD 525, Others other crafters, Dream Radio, and ICOM R9000. They are pretty nice. Pretty nice. I mean, if money is no object, I'd buy them all. That I think everybody's in the same space here. If we had, if budget is not a problem, we would buy a lot of them, and we would buy some top end radios that cost 10, 12, 15,000 bucks because we want to see it, It's a very complex situation. Ryan says most SDRs are not standalone. You would want something like the ICOM ICR 8600. I will disagree somewhat with that for a simple reason. Okay, if I have to choose with a portability of the ICOM ICR 8600 and the portability of my SDR Play RSPDX, the RSPDX is more portable and easier to use in a very compact setup than an ICOM ICR 8600. At the worst, let's put them equal. It's not more complicated because if you want to have it as a portable radio, the ICOM ICR 8600 needs to be powered still. It requires a lot of power to run that thing too. It's not, it doesn't run on AA batteries. And so it's not, for me, and that's my personal opinion. For me, it's as portable to have a laptop SDR Play, an MLA30, for example, than it would be to have the 8600 as a portable option. Yeah, if they do mention no computer required, okay. No computer required, yeah, I get it. Prasad, certainly that would also be with me. If money was no problem, I would buy every radio in the market. I could see Prasad sitting on a mountain of radios looking at the sunset. So, is that Mount Everest that you see over there? No. That is my mountain of radios. That would be, it's funny because you think of these big rich people and you're like, if I would be, Elon Musk, yeah, I'd buy every radio I see, whatever the price. But I think one of the reasons why some radios we have are we cherish the radios is we also understand all the work we did to have that paycheck to be able to buy it. It gives it more value. That amount of money we paid gives it more value, Garen Lyle, if money was no object, buy a home in a quiet location and get the radios. Yeah, you buy a home like in the middle of the forest, You buy the forest. I would go and say, okay, can I have this chunk of forest with no neighbors for, at least 100 miles around? Then have the antenna towers go up, the wires, the beverage antenna. Oh, I got a 1 kilometer beverage. Really? Yeah, it's standard. I got the forest to me here. I have a 1 kilometer long beverage. Keegan, nice to have you here, XN80Xer in Northwest Arkansas. 81 Fahrenheit. Right here, it's about 75, 76 Fahrenheit. It's gone down since the sun is set. What else do we have? What else do we have? Yeah, SDRs can run on phones and tablets, absolutely. But remember, let's be fair. A phone and a tablet is a computer. Okay, a computer is, in a large sense, a computer is a computer. Your phone is a computer. I mean, my Galaxy S9 Plus is a darn computer. It's super powerful, you know. But you run it with very small form factor devices. That's for sure. Frank Ireland, still need to do some medium wave testing with the RSP1A and the MLA30. Spend all my time using the MLA30 for shortwave. I think you're going to be pleased, but you're going to see that on medium wave, it's very, very directional. Crafter's Kitchen. My dad is a ham radio operator and had the ICOM IC781, the transceiver version of the R9000. Most amazing radio I've ever tuned. We were watching waterfalls years before SDR. Yeah, well, these are SDRs. They are SDRs. These radios are computers with receive capability. They're software-defined radios in a, the ICOM ICRD 600 is a software-defined radio running on a computer, but with knobs. It's as simple as that. Hey, Kamaxi 1976. Happy birthday, my friend. Happy birthday, Kamaxi. At the end of the day, by watching a live stream with you guys. Cool. Yeah, that also, Danny Shortwave. Instead of a Tesla being sent to space, it's like, so today's launch, which cost $100 million, will send an ICOM ICR 8600 to Mars. Oh, man. Gary Blackerby, nice to have you here. Watching your live streams is therapy for me in many levels. Thank you, sir. Happy to be here, and it's cool to change our minds of everything else. Steve Miller has the perfect answer. The radios I love are the radios I can use at the time. So here you go. Here you go. Jason Francis, if I were Elon, I'd strap my first order radio to a rocket and send it into space. Hey, you know what? I would actually design a space, some kind of some kind of space vehicle that would go to Mars and be capable of tuning from Mars any signals from the Earth. That would be nice. So you send that spacecraft that runs an ICOM ICRD 600 or something like that from Mars with an antenna that's open and that points towards the Earth, and you listen to the Earth. Now, nobody ever did that. They took pictures of the Earth and stuff, but I want to have a radio on Mars that listens to the Earth. That'd be fun. Bobby Burgess, you will be streaming when my birthday comes July 31st. Cool. I will add more, I will say what I often say. And Jasmine says the radio listen is better than the radio you don't. My WDX50 does Mars QSL. Well, you know what? If I ever have the money to send something to Mars, I promise there will be a Mars QSL card if you hear the signal. What I will always say, is I see, and I have seen so many times over years, people that own radios that they don't use and that cost thousands of dollars. I rather see one of you with a $50 radio that you're always using, that you're always trying to listen to stuff with, than a ham radio operator with 10,000 radio on the shelf that he has not turned on in years because it's just like a trophy. So, the radios need to be used. I got a lot of radios here. And I often have people saying, well, why do you have so many radios? And, part of it is explaining that there's this channel and I need to, I like to buy radios to test them out. And I love having new radios and just fiddling around with them and seeing if they work well or not. But I do a rotation. Like I always say, I do a rotation. I try to use radios that I haven't used in a long time, and tune around, because I find it cool to see them on the shelf, but I find it even better to have them in my hand trying to listen to a radio signal. AP2FLY Radio, nice to have you on board from Pakistan. Joining after a long time due to some issues. Just for my info, which one is your main antenna now? My main antenna right now, so what I'm using almost all the time is the MLA30 loop antenna. Pretty much. So right now here, I've got 3 antennas plugged in. I've got on the SDR Play RSPDX, which is what's running there, which is a little black box right here. I've got the W6LVP loop, MLA30 loop, and the mobile vertical in my backyard for VHF, UHF. And most of the time I'm running the MLA30. There's very, very little difference between the MLA30 and the W6LVP loop, honestly. So it's nice to have you on board, my friend. Keegan says, my dad is ham radio operator, W9JEF, has an ICOM IC706 and IC7300. Cool. Garen Lyle, 49 meter all the way to 19 meter, is loaded with signals here tonight, using his 8600 right now. Cool. Yeah, there's a lot of signals. It's very, the bands are very, very nice tonight. Keegan says your stream would be the same day when my birthday comes on August 14th. Cool. Jasmine, the Van Allen probes NASA launched in 2012 listen to the Earth in VLF, very low frequencies. Well, a lot of the probes actually listen to radio signals from Earth because it was part of testing if the probes could detect life on a planet according to the radio signals that the planet is sending out, or its civilization. So, yeah, but, a permanent base on Mars, always listening to Earth. That's what I want. So I'm going to start a GoFundMe. I need $1 billion. And anybody wants to help me start that? When we reach $1 billion, I promise, we're sending a probe. I'm calling Elon Musk. I'm telling him my project. He's going to be able to help me out. I'll have $1 billion to spend to send a probe to Mars that listens to Earth all the time. And maybe, who knows, I'll ask him if they're an extra, like having my live shows on Mars for any hidden aliens that might be there. Arthur's Alleycrafters can't wait to get his MLA30 on the RF 2200, the only set in my collection that I have yet to get the MLA30 onto. Experimentation excites me in the hobby. Unlike any hobby I've ever had, it keeps me young. That's the fun part of keeping, when we say, because we all get older. I was talking to my sister. I was talking to my sister this week because I have 2 sisters, one that died from cancer in 2011, but I do have another sister that Carol, which is she's 60. So I'm 51. She's 66, 67. We have a big age difference. And we started talking about it. We get old, And I said, well, And I think it's probably the same for everybody out there. I can't believe I'm 51. Something is like, what the hell? What the hell happened in the last 50 years? And I think it probably holds true for all of you. And part of the shortwave listening that I do, and chasing signals and um, tuning around portable radios and buying new radios. There's one thing that's kind of cool. I look at myself in a different way. I was telling myself one day, I was looking at all the radios I've got, and I was going back to my teenage years when I had one radio because I had no money to buy any radio. And even after that, I'd have a radio, but dishing out 100 or 200, and back then radios were more expensive than today. And so if you had a good radio, you had spent 150, 200, $250. I remember the Radio Shack DX398 I purchased on sale at $199. That's a lot of money. So I had one radio, maybe two, but not more than that. I look at today and I see all the radios I've got, and I'm like, there's part of me that says, well, it's kind of lucky that you can do that, And at the same time, it's not luck. It's work and hard work and getting a decent pay by doing and working on stuff. But I think there's that part of it for all of us that have been doing the hobby for a long time, that we have this moment and this thing and these things that we do that makes us feel as if we are still, teenagers or young adults that were starting out in the hobby and that are fascinated by all of this. There's a fascination of signals and stuff. And, one of the things that this week, every night, I was listening to Radio New Zealand before going to bed this week. And it reminds me of the times in teenage years where I would listen to Radio Australia on 17795 and that was my summer, the summer of Jill. Radio Australia. And I still remember one summer evening on my teenage years would resume itself. So keep in mind, back then solar activity was very high. But I remember my summer evening listening, as maybe I'm 14 or 15 years old. And I'm tuning United Arab Emirates Radio that had a North American broadcast on 19 meters at 10 p.m. or something like that in the evening. Tuning around, the DX Party Line or Ham Radio Today or whatever show on HCJB, Quito, Ecuador. Tuning Radio Australia before going to bed. I mean, really amazing souvenirs. And Radio New Zealand brings some of that magic for me because we're summer and feels like I'm a teenage guy, a teenage boy that's listening to signals from the Pacific. It's summertime again, summer vacation and just having fun with radios, honestly. Ah, man. Frank Ireland, I wish there would be backlight buttons on portables today. My Eton E5 had that. Yeah, that is something that I gotta say is missing. I was tuning around. I this week I compared my Degen D1103 and the XH data, because somebody had asked me. What struck me is that the Degen D1103, when you actually use it, has the buttons are all illuminated. And I was outside in the darkness in the evening. I could punch in the frequency, but the XH data doesn't have that. And I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of a cool thing. Granic G5 has a keypad that's illuminated. It's a really darn good feature when that is available. Paulo Blanco, nice to have you on board from the Philippines. DV7MOV 73, my friend. Jason Francis says the most exciting time I've had tuning around was in my youth with a crappy Radio Shack radio. For the fun I had, perhaps it wasn't so crappy. If it made you happy, it's a good radio. Jason, I started out with a realistic DX100. When I compare it today to the radios I got, it's a crappy radio. But remember one thing: if I don't know what age you are, but if listening in your youth was, in the 80s or 70s, there were a lot more signals back then, a lot more strong signals, a lot less noise. So that crappy radio actually brought in more signals probably than a good radio today in the same circumstances. My DX100 would have stations jam-packed every 5 kilohertz, which was something that today, forget it. It would be deaf on a lot of bands. Joseph Merrill, is there an antenna you can recommend for AM stations? Depends on what radio. If it's a desktop radio, you could try the MLA30. It's interesting, very directional. It's portable. The Texan passive loop Texan AN200 is pretty amazing. Of the Dawn, nice to have you here. I'll have no thoughts on any of that, my friend. We're talking about a radio here. That's more of a discussion of my tech channel. C. Johnson, nice to have you on board. Is it karaoke night? Unfortunately, no. Shelly, nice to have you here. I wonder if the radio guy is transmitting your show tonight. I can't remember the frequency though. 9630, I think it was 9630. Roughest News getting tons of signals from everywhere. Frank Ireland would love to get an RF 2200 or a Xenic Transoceanic. If I had a lot of money, you know what I would get? I would build myself a collection of old tube shortwave receivers. That would be fun. I think that would be really, really nice. A old collection of tube receivers. Keegan earlier this afternoon through early evening at some FM E-skip stations from Ontario, Indiana, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Manitoba, North Dakota. Cool. That is cool. C. Johnson, I've heard you can hear another radio if it's tuned to the same frequency and close enough. Is that just an AM thing? Never heard of a FM radio doing that. Actually, it's not on the same frequency. So on some receivers, and it doesn't work on every radios. If you tune 2 AM radios on with the so a lot of basic AM radios have one local oscillator, which is often 455 kilohertz. If you put them close together, yes, you can, in some cases with some radios, hear another radio's what you're listening on the other radio on the second radio. Absolutely. Is it just an AM thing? No. And to give you an idea, I've had that happen with 2 scanner radios. So I remember having 2 scanner radios and noticing once that one of them had stopped scanning, and what I was receiving was the same thing as the other scanner was actually listening to. But the reason why it's easier on AM to do so is because 455 kilohertz is a small frequency range. It's still within the AM band. It could happen on shortwave also. While on scanner radios, often they have, the intermediate frequency is much bigger. So you'll have to, by chance, or it's not by chance because you can calculate it and know where to listen to. And that's why actually you can actually use a second AM radio. It's the same principle that if you don't have single sideband, you could technically use a second AM radio or a second radio tuned a little different in frequency depending on the intermediate frequency, and be able to have a carrier from that radio help you to code single sideband or Morse code, for example. It's the same properties, but it is not just AM only. It is for a lot of radios. And, an oscillator is a transmitter. When you say oscillator, remember, it's a transmitter. It oscillates at a specific frequency. So you should be able to hear it. It's just that the oscillator is not meant to broadcast. So it's made in consequence to stay inside the radio itself. But 2 radios close together can get the other's IF frequency if you want. Hunter's Crafter's Kitchen says the price of the RF 2200 in 1977 was $165. It's a lot of money for 1977. I mean, Moria 330, I was trying to use shortwave info site and it lists Canada International. What site did you go to? Well, okay. There is one broadcast of Radio Canada International relayed through a station in Europe. That's the only. It's not an official broadcast, and apparently, I think I heard Glenn Hauser talk about it and saying that it's the same old broadcast from months ago that's still playing over and over and over again. Gordon Lyle says, "I'm 53, body feels 73, my mind feels 33." I always joke to everybody, Gordon, that when somebody asks me, "What age are you?" I said, "Well, I'm 51, but mentally I'm still not old enough to get into a bar." No, PL660 buttons are not illuminated. The ones I have here illuminated is the Grande G5, Degen DE1103. What other radio? Do I have another radio that has illuminated buttons except for the scanner radios like the ICOM SCR 30 or 20? I don't know. I'm trying to think here of it quickly. I'm sure I have maybe another or two, but it's not something we see very often, and it's very useful when it's dark. PD5DRE from the Netherlands. Nice to have you on board. Arches Auto Crafter's Kitchen. Yeah, what else do we have? Keegan has a Zenith Transoceanic R7002 from 1981. Cool. Ian Mitchell, nice to have you here. What do you think of regenerative radios? They're fun things. It's different technologies, different ways of doing things, and it's kind of cool. They're all different technologies, and I wish I'd had more time to actually experiment with all of that, because it's really cool. What else do we have? Chemexy has really strong CB chatter on 27285. When we started the show, there's a lot of a lot of e-skip. So I'm gonna check that out. Anything else? Seems to have quieted down quite a lot here. Oh, there's still some. I can hear some. They're weaker. It's weaker than earlier. Morning at 3:30. Actually able to pick up Radio New Zealand 13840 just on the small telescopic. This all in my house. It's been coming in very, very well. Actually, if let's check it out right now. 13840. Yep, it's not too bad right now too. It's already coming in here. 13840 Radio New Zealand. Pretty good. Jason Francis missed the days when you could walk into a store and touch the radios you wanted to buy. Yeah. And, going to a Radio Shack and they had 6 or 7 radios or when there was that craze of scanner radios and I purchased a lot of them and you had 7 or 8 different scanner radios that you could look at. Good old times, good old times. You should, Jerry DX. You should. Jasmine has activities on 27025. It's a different thing, Jason. It's different than it was, but I think it's still exciting and fun, honestly. And I think we gotta stay there and just think about it. I mean, I'm still having fun, and when I purchased that elderly radio, the Ereticus TR618, I am always kind of excited to open the box and have a new radio in my hands. See how Chinese crappy is going to be, or good radio is going to be. I mean, there's something exciting about it all the time. There are radios that I look at that I want to use, and then I don't know. It's very weird the way we could feel about technology and how technology works. And I think you got it or you don't. A lot of people, so many people, don't understand why all of this is cool and why all of this is happening, and why what do you like and what you do here, I still remember so many times being told, oh, you're listening to the static again. Yep, and I'm happy to it. I'm happy. It's something you don't understand or you do, and that's it. And it depends on who you are. It's very, very complex thing, and it's all wired into our brain, and I don't know. I think a lot of us are going into work areas that are often tied to technology because of all of this. I can tell you that. Bill says there are many MLA 30 antennas on Amazon, different prices, same picture. Which one to buy? The cheapest. It's as simple as that. And you know what? Buy it on eBay. Don't buy it on Amazon. Anyways, Amazon has a lot of them are the eBay sellers. I paid $44. It's still $44 US, the one that I actually purchased. So, you know what? 44, anywhere from 40 to 50 US dollars, you're okay. More than 50, you're getting ripped off. Below 40, be careful. Some are selling just parts. So there's a lot of stuff, you gotta be careful. But just buy the one that is in a decent price. Actually, from what I understand, pretty much everybody is sending out sending out the MLA 30 Plus now. PD5DRE, why can't we send super chats so you can buy new radios to test? Yeah, I know. I get asked that all the time. And I don't like super chat for, I don't know. I don't want to have a level of people that can do super chat and others that don't. If you do want to send a little something for me to buy a new radio, send it to my PayPal. And here's a PayPal where you can send it to. And here you can send me something for new radios. And we'll buy new radios. That's actually what I did. I had about $100 left in a PayPal account. And that's why I bought the Reticus TR618, which cost me about, something like 50-ish, 60-ish, 50-ish Canadian dollars. Use the money in the PayPal account that you guys had sent me over time. That was still there to purchase it and talk about it. So I'll be able to talk about a Reticus TR618 radio for the elderly. It makes me laugh when a radio for the elderly. When I saw the wording on eBay, it was like a radio for the elderly, and you got this old couple holding hands. Just Ryan, the new elderly radio channel. Welcome to the elderly radio channel, where we listen to big band music from the 40s. Just crazy, Nicholas, nice to have you here, Nicholas. K9XN Nick from Northwest Indiana, USA. So, Danny Shortwave. I fell for the look. And I thought, okay, it might be awful, but who knows? We'll try it. We'll see. We'll be able to rant about it or to, Gordon Lyle says New Zealand 13840 plus 10 strong here. Radio New Zealand makes it seem less bad that Radio Australia left. Yeah, I agree with you on that. It makes us feel a little bit less sad of Radio Australia gone, because it is a Pacific area broadcast, and it has in its broadcast and the way it does things, it has the kind of a feel of Radio Australia a little bit. But I miss getting up in the morning and tuning 9580 and listening to Radio Australia with my coffee. Well, I fell for the look of the radio, Danny Shortwave. Totally. I fell for the look of the radio. And the fact that they don't mention Shortwave is good. They're just mentioning the sound quality is amazing. So I thought, if Shortwave's bad, I'll use it as a portable MP3 player, which is probably what the old couple is doing on the picture on eBay. It's funny because I remember in the young, when I was a teenager, what would you see? You would see teenage gangs together, girls and boys, and one had a boombox going on the beach or something. There was a radio. And now today is like, oh, look at that, the elderly couple with its portable receiver going on the beach. It just made me laugh when I saw the picture. I was like, yeah, I'm buying a radio for the elderly. But you know what? I looked at what it looked like. I was like, I want it. It looks cute. I hope it's not just cute in its looks, that it's a little more than that. But who knows? I don't actually. I'm not expecting much. So, the only thing that could happen is I might be happy. Oh man. Jasmine says, if you think about it, most people who grew up listening to shortwave or hams are on the elderly side. Oh, that's for sure, Jasmine. Absolutely. You're right on the average age, that's for sure. Man. Nicholas, glad I didn't miss the show tonight. It's been a while. Missed watching the shows. Well, welcome. Nice to have you here. Ryan says you might be elder. I'm gonna I'm gonna do a video for me walking in the park with my radio and said, "Look at my elderly. This is my elderly moment in the park." PD5DR. Yeah, I understand. I know. But you know what? I've not been asking donations for a while because things are not bad. But it's always welcome to have donations. That's for sure. It's nice to have you here, my friend. Yarabamba, listening shortwave radio on the beach is awesome. Oh yeah, I haven't been to the beach in a long time, but I used to go to the beach, and one of the things I would do is bring a very cheap portable radio, and I had the Grundig. What was it? The Grundig 100 PE, which is a very small analog shortwave that was so cheap in price that if I went to the beach and forgot it was there, if I got it stolen, I didn't care. And I remember tuning around, and of course the beach was far from houses. There was not a lot of noise, and I remember going around and saying, "Wow, this radio isn't bad actually. It's picking up stuff, but it's actually telling everything that telling us that even a crappy radio, when you're out of the noise, is sometimes surprising." Oh man. But yeah, listening to shortwave outside in a nature environment is kind of always fun. Rogers Alec Raptor's Kitchen says he's 56 and not elderly yet. Wow, 81 W9JEF. I hope to get there in good shape someday. Will I be doing a live show when I'm 81? I don't know. Take care, Jason Francis. Nice to have you here. Stay safe. Have a good night. Cool. I'd like to know that, Jason. And don't hesitate to ask questions. Prasad, digressing. What is your drink this evening? Well, it's empty, but it was vodka and cranberry juice. So that was the drink tonight. So, hey guys, 2 hours and 48 minutes. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. It was a lot of fun to do. And, it's one of those shows when I started the show, or before I started the show, I was like, one of those nights where you're like, I don't feel like doing the show much, but you got to be there. You have a show, you got the show. The show must go on, as they say. But it's always when that happens, almost always, it's one of the best shows and the fun shows to do, because I don't know why, there's something about it that when you go in and you're not sure, it's always, Keegan says, thought there would be at least 13 more minutes left in the show. So here it's almost 11 p.m. and we're going to take it easy for the rest of the night. I hope you enjoyed this show today. Friday, 2000 hours Universal Time. Friday, we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about the Antarctic midwinter broadcast from the BBC coming up this Sunday. So we're going to have that, and we'll try to have other stuff to talk about. Anyways, there's always something to talk about radio wise. So I'm going to just take it easy. I want you guys to stay safe. I love you all. Thanks for those that donated if tonight. And I'm going to buy radios. Anybody wants me to buy a specific radio. I'm waiting for 2 radios right now. I'm waiting for the Arangung whatever wideband thing that is a portable radio that is a very wideband receiver with up to VHF that has been apparently shipped 2 months ago, and I still don't have it. And I'm waiting for the, well, it was shipped yesterday, so I won't have it for a while, but the Reticus TR618 radio for the elderly. I'll be an old man using that Reticus now. So yep, Radio New Zealand. That's what. That's pretty much what I'm gonna my listening for tonight. Radio New Zealand 13840, and will be of course. Elderly radio may be slower. And hope you enjoy the shows that we do here on the Shortwave channel. It's always kind of cool to do these streams. See you Friday, 2000 hours Universal Time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Official Shortwave, official SWL channel, sorry, for the Facebook group. So join in the Facebook group, guys. If you're not there yet, we have 1,034 members now. 1,034 members. And it's a great place where all of this continues, and we have a lot of fun. So stay safe, everybody. Love you all. Okay? Good night.